What's up, y'all? It's me. I'm here again. I had so much fun sharing the list of 7 books that I think you should know in order to understand just the basics of Black history and civil rights history in America, that I thought it would be a good idea to sort of share some more resources with you. So when I was in law school, I created an ad hoc seminar called The Untold Story of the Civil Rights Movement, which looked at the facts behind some important civil rights cases, and I thought it would be a good idea to share that list with you all and sort of discuss those cases and how to understand why they're important. And so I'll do this. So I'm going to do this for just, I don't know, however many weeks this takes us, and just look at these short videos, hopefully no more than 10 minutes. Although this video may be a little more than 10 minutes since it's the first video. Since this is the first video, how about I teach you all, if you don't know, how do you even read a court case? Like what, because this ain't a novel, obviously. But you can still kind of use the tools of just basic reading comprehension to understand what's going on. But I want to first explain how do you break down the different sections of a case. So when I was studying law, they said if you wanted to read a case, you can outline it and try to find these different sections in it. And they would use the acronym FIRE, which is not spelled the way that you think it should be spelled. It's not F-I-R-E, it's F-I-H-R. So F stands for facts, and the facts section of the case usually come at the beginning. They should. And they just tell you like what's going on in this case, like what happened, why are we here, who got beef with who mad with whom, who trying to get money from whom, whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's the facts. Then you have I, which stands for issue, or the question, like what do you want the court to do? What is the issue? Like, yeah, y'all mad about this, but what exactly do you want the court to decide in this case? Where do you think the lower court messed up or whatever? So that's the issue. It's usually a question that's like whether such and such did such and such, or should or did the court blah blah blah. So it's usually presented as a question. The next section is H, which stands for the holding. So the holding is how does the court answer that question? And sometimes it's as simple as, you know, whether the lower court erred, and the holding would be yes, the lower court erred. And then the R is the reasoning. So why did it decide to have that holding? Or why did it decide to have that conclusion to the issue that was presented? So those are like, this is very broadly speaking, the general elements of a case. Not all cases have them. Some just have, like, you read a case and it just says affirmed with no explanation, no statement of facts, no nothing. So unfortunately, they don't always write their cases this way, but they should be, and generally speaking, that's how it goes. So there you have it. Those are the basic understanding outlines of how do you read a case. Now you know what you're looking for. Where are the facts? What's going on here? What is the court actually trying to decide? It's usually a sentence or two. How did they answer those questions? Why did they answer that question that way? So now the first case that I want to bring to your attention, and I use this case because it actually does follow that format that I just gave you very well, and that's Brown versus the Board of Education. Now if you don't know this case, I don't know what rock you've been living under, but it is very important because it is the case that ended segregation in public schools, which then rippled throughout the rest of the country in different areas. And so in that case, the facts of those cases, very broadly speaking, it was consolidation of cases from different states like South Carolina, Kansas, Washington D.C., Maryland, I believe. And they were saying that these black students were being denied equal education because they were forced to go to segregated schools. So this is in violation of the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause. The question presented was whether or not separate but equal, which was established by Plessy versus Ferguson, whether or not that violated the equal protection of the law under the 14th Amendment. The court answered the question, yes. And then it proceeded to give the reason for that. And the reason was the effect that it had on the brown or black students, which was very interesting. Now when I say that it's interesting because I don't know if you all are familiar with Kenneth Clark's study on the doll study, where he takes the black students and asks them which color doll do they want, and most of them preferred the white doll over the black doll, and so it's just speaking to the psychological impact of segregation, and it was very unique for the court to actually factor in the psychological impact or the intangible aspect to segregation. So for the court, like I said, to focus on that and point to that as to why equal protection, black people were being denied equal protection, was really quite remarkable for that time. Now, I always joke because that Kenneth Clark study, the doll study, if it were me, I would have been, during that time, I would have been that kid that's like, I want that brown doll though. I would have messed up the whole study and then I would have blew the case. But anyway, yeah, so that's very fascinating to think about the court taking into the psychological impact that segregation had on black students. They had already, and I don't know if people know this, had already decided that segregation was illegal within the context of law school and other graduate school, but they hadn't discussed it broadly in public school. So with this case, they were able to say that segregation in public education had no place. And it overturned Plessy versus Ferguson. And then, like I said, that ruling, the reasoning sort of rippled through the rest of other areas of the law. And so that was in 1954. And then they had Brown versus Board of Education 2 in 1955, where they were trying to decide, well, okay, we can't segregate, but how fast or how slow should we take to get this whole thing situated? You know, how long does it take to actually integrate, or how fast should we do that? And the court said, with all deliberate speed. Now you may be wondering, how fast is all deliberate speed? Well, let's put it this way. There are still some school districts in this country that are under desegregation orders, as in like a district court is still sort of monitoring that. So I don't know how long all deliberate speed is, but I know it is not the speed at which I want things to happen in my life. I need it to happen just a little faster than that. Now, if you want to know more about this case, some of the background information, like Brown, the little girl who actually was the plaintiff in this case, although like I said, it was a class action suit basically, so there were a lot of plaintiffs, but Brown's name was on the Supreme Court case. And you know, if you want to find that information out, the background story, or why is it still taking so long to get this thing accomplished, then check out these books. So I have one here, Jim Crow's Children by Peter Irons, like why is this taking so long? And then this one, Black Trials, which I mentioned in my other video, the 7 books you should know. This book is going to come up a few times for this series because it's just so important, but it has such great background information on that case and how did they get there, because there was this debate going on with Thurgood Marshall and people within the Legal Defense Fund, like, should we try to go to the Supreme Court and get a big ruling, because what if it comes against us? Now we are set back. Or should we just try to go throughout the different districts and circuits and win there and sort of slowly bring about integration? Yeah, so a lot of information there. But those are the resources. If you like this video, please hit like, subscribe to my page if you want to see more content, if you don't want to make sure you don't miss anything. You can also visit my website, palukisworld.com. I'll put this all down there because you're like, how do you spell Paluki? palukisworld.com, Diary of a Runaway Civil Rights Attorney, which I am. That's how I refer to myself. I'm like, I'm a runaway civil rights attorney. I'm on a mission, still on the same mission, just doing it a little different. Yeah, and you'll never miss anything. And I also write from time to time, although I need to get back on that. But I hope you enjoyed it, and stick around for next week when I bring more stuff. And you ain't got nowhere to go, I ain't got nowhere to go. So we're gonna do this. Alright, be blessed.